Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Casey Lowdermilk. I work for Another Planet Entertainment as the Assistant General Manager of the Bill Graham Civic Auditorium in San Francisco. I'd like to first welcome all members of the press for joining. We really appreciate you taking the time to attend our first ever virtual Save Our Stages press conference. Our industry is in a dire situation, and we hope to bring awareness to our local communities and beyond. We're thankful to have a stellar panel of speakers here for you today, including Congressman Mike Thompson of California's 5th District, representing much of California's wine country and parts of the East Bay. Representative Thompson has led the charge in the Bay Area, co-sponsoring both the Save Our Stages and Restart Acts. Since he has signed on, 6 other Bay Area representatives have co-sponsored one or both bills. We are also joined by Bob Weir of the Grateful Dead, Dead & Company, and the Wolf Bros. Don Was, president of Blue Note Records, Grammy Award-winning producer and touring musician. Alan Scott, head of concerts and festivals for Another Planet Entertainment. Ken Tesler, managing director of Blue Note Napa, Jam Cellars Ballroom, and partners with Another Planet at the Oxbow River Stage. We have a new addition today with Joanne Desmond, business agent at IATSE Local 16 Stagehand Union. And last but not least, Derek Featherstone, CEO and owner of Ultrasound and production director for Dead & Company. Press have submitted questions in advance, which will be addressed to panelists by myself. All attendees can utilize the chat function in Zoom for additional questions and follow-up. Please be sure to message all panelists. This panel will be recorded and distributed later today to attending press. We'll begin with remarks from Representative Thompson, followed by each panelist, and then we'll move on to questions and conversation. Representative Thompson, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to join you. And I want to thank Ken Tesler of Blue Note Napa for organizing today's event. And I got to tell you, it's a real honor to share the virtual stage with the great Bob Weir. It's a first, and it's pretty exciting. Everyone on this call knows that music is important, and everybody knows that music feeds our soul, especially in these tough times. Music is a way for us to feel connected across distance and a way for us to build bridges between divides. And in the Napa Valley, in the heart of my district, and across the entire district, music and the local performance venues are important for our community, and they've long been a critical part of our tourism economy as well. And coronavirus has not been kind to your industry, and it's dealing a crushing financial blow to you, and everybody needs to understand that. And that's why I've co-authored, as you mentioned, both the Restart Act and the Save Our Stage Act. The Restart Act is a bipartisan and bicameral bill, and it establishes a new loan program for small businesses hit hard by the pandemic, particularly small performance venues, just like Blue Note Napa. And this bill would give these venues the capital and the flexibility needed as they move towards recovery. Now, the bill has been referred to the Ways and Means Committee, of which I'm a member, and it has the support from both Democrats and Republicans on our committee. And with that type of support, the Restart Act, and I say this with apologies to Bob Weir, but it should be on the golden road through the Ways and Means Committee. And the Save Our Stage Act is also bipartisan, and it's also bicameral. And it would establish a grant program for both small live venue operators and talent representatives. With over 100 co-authors in the House, it also stands a good chance of passage. And both of these important bills will help ensure that small performance venues can stay in business and keep us entertained for years to come. I'm going to do everything I can to get these bills passed and then signed into law, so that when we get back together for live music again, we'll have a place to do it. I want to thank you all for your commitment and want you to know that we're all in this together, and we'll get through it. So thank you, and thanks for inviting me to participate.
Excellent. Thank you, Congressman. Your leadership is critical and appreciated in this fight. Now let's move on to Bob Weir. Go ahead, Bobby.
All right. Thanks. I'm going to start by painting a picture that will serve maybe as an example of an economic ecosystem that they used to call, and I think they still do call, the Chitlin Circuit. Only we're going to look back at what was happening there in the 30s. Those parts of those towns that what they call the Chitlin Circuit, where the blues and jazz idioms grew up, and also the Negro Leagues baseball teams played. They had an economic ecosystem that was thriving, and it continued to thrive. All the hotels, restaurants, shops were busy. They were full. There were markets for the local produce that that the farmers provided. The people were driving Cadillacs and wearing Italian suits in the height of the Depression. And the reason for this was the entertainment industry, that being sports and music, drove this economic engine. They ducked out the Depression. They never felt it. And the reason I bring that, and I found out about this when a few years back when I was researching, writing a musical theater piece on the life and times of the great Negro Leagues pitcher Satchel Paige. Today we have a situation where, with the right kind of stimulus from the government, we can help generate the same kind of economic rebound, or this kind of economic rebound that the country really needs. We need to pass a COVID relief bill, which includes help for the independent music community. Now I've done well. I have something of a cushion to fall back on, but I'm on my own. I'm speaking for the rest of the folks who are still trying to do well, haven't done all that well yet. The roadies, the venues, the agents, the songwriters, ticket takers, and it's just endless, the number of people who are involved in this industry. And the quality of our lives, everyone's lives, depends in large part on their being able to make it by and provide what they provide to our culture and our society. There are 3 bills that are going through Congress right now, and they won't pass as standalone bills, but they need all the help they can get, and we're hoping that good congressmen will be able to find the strength in the governing body to support these bills and run them through. I employ a lot of people full time. I know what it's like, and I feel them. I feel their angst. I feel their, I'm there for them, but not everybody can be. We need help from the government, and I'd like to point out that music crosses party lines here. Everybody needs music, and I'll leave it at that. Everybody needs music.
Absolutely, very well said. Thank you, Bobby. It's hard to imagine where our most beloved bands and artists would be without the support of small independent venues. Don Was, take it away.
Thank you. Well, I'm here today as someone who is involved with music in a number of ways, ranging from being a fan and an audience member to begin with, to being a touring musician and a record producer and the president of a big record company. And the thing that unifies all those doorways into music for me, and is really the common link between everyone speaking here today, is a belief that music transforms the soul. It brings people together and raises our spirits in a way that nothing else can. And in a year like this one, we need that power and salve of live music more than ever. Now, as the president of Blue Note Records, I'm aware of the inextricable link between live performance and recorded music. The backbone of our business is really based on the career development of new artists, and performing night after night is the way that young artists hone their craft and build their audiences. It's the major marketing tool for record companies. Without venues, we lose the ability to nurture new artists and to sustain the careers of established artists, both on an economic and a creative level. And my buddy Dave Grohl has pointed out that we are instruments in a sonic cathedral, and it's one built together with the audience night after night after night. And we can only rebuild those cathedrals with help from Congress. Without venues, the whole network collapses irreparably. And so I'm honored to be here today to urge everyone who cares about music to support these bills.
Gave me the chills there, Don. Thanks for the insight. Now let's go to Alan Scott with Another Planet Entertainment.
Hey, thanks, Casey. I am Alan Scott at Another Planet. I'm head of concerts and festivals at Another Planet, and we produce nearly 1,000 shows throughout the Bay Area annually. And they're in venues size 300 capacity or 400 capacity, like Brava Theater in the Mission, or Rickshaw Stop, or the Independent, which is 500 capacity, all the way up through through stadiums and through outside lands where we do 75,000 people a day. And through that, so many people are touched, as Bob mentioned earlier. You know, there are security, ticket takers, catering, stagehands, union stagehands. The list goes on, and then that goes into the artists that are touring, and the bus drivers, and the touring personnel, and the merchandise. And it spiderwebs out to thousands and thousands of people. And you know, live music in itself, I moved to San Francisco 25 years ago for live music, and the legacy of Bill Graham and what Bob was doing with the Grateful Dead, and how important audiences, or the Bay Area audience is, and how much they love live music. And that's why I came here. That's why I'm living in the Bay Area, is because of live music. And it's being able to go to all these small venues like the Independent, like Cafe du Nord, like Great American Music Hall, Bottom of the Hill, the list goes on. And we need help from the government in order for these small venues to survive. There needs to be a capital infusion, or these venues are not gonna survive. And I think when you look around and you wanna be in a world-class city, like San Francisco, but you can look around the country, you want live music. And I think we should all try to imagine for a minute, if there were no live music venues in your town, what that would look like. And I think not many, or no one on this call, I would say, would be happy with that. So it is imperative that these support, and I call on Speaker Nancy Pelosi to keep fighting for the next coronavirus bill, and urge her to include Save Our Stages and or Restart in that bill, because it is critical for our industry to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Alan. We will now go to Ken Tesler with Blue Note Napa. Go ahead, Ken.
How you doing? So I want to kind of give you guys a snapshot of what I am, which is the epitome of the the small venue owner. I'm the managing director of the Blue Note Napa, the Jam Cellars Ballroom, and I'm a partner with Another Planet in the Oxbow River Stage. These venues are 150 people, 600 people, and a few thousand people each. They're all in downtown Napa, and all three are prime examples of the independent music venues that are across the country. Blue Note Napa and Jam Cellars Ballroom has been shuttered by government order since March 12th. Oxbow River Stage, we were slated to begin in June, and that never happened. The COVID pandemic has currently ended live music and live performance in California, despite the fact that restaurants have been able to open, albeit under restricted circumstances. Unfortunately, live music is all but still completely forbidden. We have creatively proposed outdoor socially distanced solutions, but still find ourselves prohibited to open in any form and in any capacity. So year round, we employ over 35 full and part-time employees in our indoor venues, and 5 months out of the year, when we go outdoor to the Oxbow, we employ well over 150 part-time employees. We represent over 200 shows per year, we present over 200 shows per year, which translates into 200 bookings of local and national acts per year. When you consider the size of the bands, that's thousands of musicians who benefit financially from playing in our small venues each and every year. Our small venues have also become somewhat of an economic engine for our community, bringing tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to local restaurants, shops, hotels, and wineries. We purchase thousands of dollars of food and beverage from our local vendors. And finally, we take pride in producing over 75 community events and fundraisers each year. So I believe small venues like ours are very worth saving. The arts are essential, as has been said by others on this conference. Music feeds the soul, and jobs are essential. Our workers have been some of the hardest hit in this pandemic. A place for community to gather and serve each other is essential. Whether it's locals' night to hang with friends after work or fundraisers for fire victims. And the local economy is essential, and we are at its heart in downtown Napa. So I'm therefore committed to raising awareness to both the Save Our Stages Act and the Restart Act, as these bills really can be the difference makers, not just for my business, but the businesses like it across the country.
Absolutely, thank you, Ken. Now we'll go to Joanne Desmond with IATSE Local 16.
Hi, my name is Joanne Desmond, and I'm an assistant business agent with IATSE Local 16, the stage technicians that work on the many productions in the Bay Area. Our 200 plus workforce is currently at over 98% unemployment, and we have little hope of getting back to work until possibly mid-2021. Save Our Stages and the Restart Act are about more than saving a business. It's about literally saving the lives and livelihood of our members. Our members' lives have been upended as they scramble to find ways to pay their rent, maintain their health insurance, and to keep food on the table. We are not an industry that has the luxury of working remotely. We count on these venues to stay alive so we can continue our work, which also is our passion in many cases. As human beings, we crave human contact and interaction. Performing arts and music are essential to people in order to thrive. We are part of this, and we want to remain a part of this.
Appreciate the insight on the impact to our labor unions. Thank you very much for joining, Joanne. And now for our final panelist, Derek Featherstone from Ultrasound.
So I want to check in with a little bit of what Joanne was talking about. First off, as a owner of a small business that specializes in live sound with touring artists, we've obviously been hit by complete stoppage on March 15th. 99% of our business for the rest of the year went away. What is so crucial that we're seeing is the value of entertainment industry employees. These employees are people that have built up a special culture with, this unparalleled loyalty that they have no retirement, no pension, no 401k, no guarantee of future work. And it's always been the case. This mentality exists of the show must go on. And this is like everyone on this panel has, or actually that's true, everyone on this panel has benefited from that. that mentality that's always made the show go on. And we've all sort of seen these behind the scenes people push and push and push and make stuff work. So what we're looking for now is the government to support these behind the scenes people so they can come out from behind the scenes and get the help, because we need these people when we return, because when this turns back on, it's going to turn on big. We have to bridge this period, get federal help, and take care of the people that have spent their whole lives technically hiding from all of us, making things work behind the scenes and bring them up to the top of the surface. And I also just wanted to say thank you, everybody. Thank you, Congressman, for joining us on this panel. This is something true to all of us. I've been with this company for 30 years, and obviously it'd be silly for me not to say, but we have never seen anything like this, and nor has anyone in this planet seen something like this. But music is a core to the soul for healing. It's got such a value, more than entertainment. And I feel there's such a need to preserve it, do what we need to get it healthy, but have it available when we come back. Because this employee base, I've never seen anything like it, and it needs to be preserved and maintained and looked out for in the months to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Moving on to our questions and conversation. This is open to all press and attendees. Please contribute to the chat when sending your question, and please be sure to select all panelists in the chat function. While we still have him, why don't we start with Congressman Thompson? Congressman Thompson, so, you know, we know the problem, the bills are introduced. What are our actionable next steps in pushing through SOS and restart legislation?
I think what you're doing is exactly what's necessary. You know, we need to create our own weather, make sure that members of Congress from both the House and the Senate know how important this is. As I mentioned, the bills are bipartisan, they're bicameral, so the process has started. Now we just need to make sure everybody knows that this is critical. It's critical for employment in their districts. It's critical for the sake of music, as everyone has mentioned, and we just need to gin up our pressure on folks to make sure that they make it a priority, and we get hearings set and we get the bills passed and signed into law. We're pushing, you know, real hard on COVID relief on a number of different angles, and you know the big problem is we've you know that the House has passed the big bill, and we can't get the Senate to take it up. So the more pressure we put out there, the more music lovers and people who understand the impact on our local economy speak up, the better our chances are going to be.
Thank you, Congressman. So we've heard, we do have a question from the chat that we'd like to address. You know, we've heard that there's a possibility that there will not be a coronavirus relief package before the election. Can you give us some of your insight on that, and what's the likelihood that there will be a bill before you go to recess?
Well, I know I was on a phone call today with the entire Democratic caucus in the House, and we discussed this and the importance of having a COVID relief bill. It's needed, you know, not only for music, it's needed for healthcare, it's needed for tracing and testing, and it's needed to help all small businesses that are struggling right now, and employees who are struggling, folks who need another round of stimulus, unemployment benefits. And as you probably know, states and local governments, you know, they're having a hard time right now because of the economic side of COVID. And then states like my state, California, in my district, we're getting hit by a second tragedy, and that's these fires. So state and local governments they're running pretty thin in the Treasury Department, and so we need to pass something to help them too, or it's going to get even worse. If states and local governments don't have the money they need to make ends meet, the only way they can balance their books is to start laying people off. And if that happens, not only do our unemployment numbers go up, which cost us more money, but the people that will be laid off are the people that provide the services that we need and that are so important right now. Talking about firefighters, cops, school teachers, healthcare providers. So there is an urgency here, and I can tell you what Nancy Pelosi told our caucus on that call today. She said, "We will stay in Washington until a bill is passed." So I text my wife to see if she had any vacation time coming and suggested that maybe she'd come out because I could be here for a while. So we're committed to getting this done. And that's why your voice is so important.
Excellent. Really glad we have that commitment. Thank you, Congressman. Going to shoot one over to Bob Weir and Derek Featherstone. When you guys go on tour with Dead & Company, about how many people do you travel with and do you employ? And have you heard from them since the shutdown? What are they doing? Are they starting to find other jobs, or what's their situation? Well,
first off, I'm going to pass that over to Derek, and then I think he'll pass it over to me because I'm going to have something to add.
Absolutely. So, I mean, if you look at I was saying earlier, I was trying to draw a flow chart of the effect of one band. If you take a band like Dead & Company, Bob's band, and there's 6 members, and you move down this chart to how many people that affects. Well, from bus drivers to truck drivers to crew guys, then we go into local market, and then we get local labor like IATSE labor or Teamsters, and we get ticket takers, and it just keeps growing. And I was trying to get to the bottom of the numbers, but to answer the question directly, we have 92 people that travel with us on the road that we are responsible for. Most of those people we put on payroll. Sometimes we will, some of them are independent contractors. If they, show us workers' comp and invoice us, we do, pay them as independent contractors. And then when we move to a city, you keep adding these things. I was writing these notes down earlier that I could easily come up with 800 people on the course of one show that work for an event. And Alan could get into this too with something like Outside Lands. I mean, it's substantially more than that. But then you multiply that by these other artists that are touring. And if you have, if there's 15, 20 tours running through the summer, more than that typically, you've already, very easily hit 500,000 people that are unemployed. And they're all unemployed. And we do keep up with them all. And we're trying to, I shouldn't say all, but as many as we can. And repurposing these people is tough because they're so specialized and so good at what they do. And none of us saw, an outcome of this sort. We've seen lulls, we've seen business come and go. And this loyal employee base, as I was speaking on earlier, they are used to having January, February, and March be super quiet. So they make this money, they save the money, they spend their savings in the winter, and then March, April, they start working again. Well, this is a tragic consequence because no one saw this, obviously. And now they're starting a pandemic with 0 funds. So repurposing new jobs. I mean, I know from the audio guys that work for us, I've encouraged them to get into construction, into electrical work and renovating houses, whatever people can do, because this isn't a quick end. So again, along in the short, there's 92 people who are on the road with us to make that one concert tour work that are traveling. Back to you, Bob.
And then I need to point out, I think, that nobody's asking for a handout here. We're asking for loans. These are small businesses, and these are small businesses looking for loans, mortgage relief, that kind of thing. And just for the time being, and it will get paid back. Much of what you've seen and heard so far is Bay Area centric, but it's the same picture, it's the same situation everywhere you go in this country. So nobody's dodging this bullet, and it mounts up, it stacks up. There are a lot of people being affected, a lot of people.
Can I say one more point here, going back to Bob? I think, of all these people, we would all rather have work than a handout. There's no question. Culture of these people, because it isn't this kind of thing where we're looking for federal assistance so we can stay at home and do nothing. None of these people are wired to stay or be at home. They're meant to be working.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. So this next question I'm going to send over to Alan Scott with Another Planet Entertainment. Kind of parlays off another question we got submitted by the press in advance. Alan, how have you seen neighborhoods transform due to venue success, such as NOPA in San Francisco and its neighboring Independent, or Uptown Oakland and the Fox Theater? What would it mean for venues to close around the Bay Area for the surrounding local economies?
I mean, I see a venue that like the Independent, which is 500 capacity, or a venue like the Fox Theater in Uptown Oakland, which is 2,800 capacity. They do the same thing. They're like an anchor tenant for the neighborhood, and things mushroom from there, particularly in the nightlife sector with restaurants and bars and the such. And I've seen it firsthand. The Independent opened in 2004, February of 2004, and that stretch of Divisadero was, you know, not desolate, but it was very quiet. Much of what you see there now wasn't there then. I think the Popeyes was there, and the Beanbag Cafe, and a few others. But you know, when you bring just a small venue of that size, and you're bringing over 100,000 people annually through a neighborhood where most people are traveling in from throughout the city and throughout the Bay Area, you see what it does. And anecdotally, we hear it from the restaurants and bars. Hey, are you having a show? When you have a show, we feel that. We're packed before the show, after the show, and it kind of feeds into that. And I'm really proud to see what has happened on that stretch of Divisadero corridor. You know, the Fox in Uptown Oakland was very desolate. There was hardly anything there. I believe the restaurant Flora and what's my favorite, Paloma on the street. I'm blanking right now, but it was quiet. Now there's dozens and dozens of restaurants and bars in a 3, 4, 5 block radius. And, you know, when the Fox isn't having shows, now it's a destination for people to go out at night. And, you know, another thing that we're really proud of, but also just showing, you know, why live music is so integral for the local economy. And, you know, with it Fox, it's 300,000 people coming through annually. The Bill Graham Civic in, you know, Hayes Valley Civic Center, that's 500,000 people coming through. And you can see how that, you know, mushrooms out. But it's imperative. You know, you just put in more housing, their office space. It's not quite that same impact in terms of density and volume. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's important to understand. You know, we're not just one industry that we need help. We're supporting the whole local economy, and we're going to be pretty crucial in this recovery to bring people down to stores and shops. So thank you, Alan.
Yeah.
All right, let's pop it over to Ken Tesler with Blue Note Napa. Hey, Ken, why haven't any of your venues been able to open even on a limited capacity during this pandemic?
Well, that's a good question, and it's really been frustrating. First, I want to put it out there that I don't want to disparage the state and or local health departments at all. I mean, I feel like they've been doing a great job. I've been in contact with our county health department, and, you know, Napa has a very low rates of COVID. They've been keeping things under control, or all of Napa County. So they're doing a fantastic job. But that said, here's the frustrating part. There seems to be a misconception with regard to the live concert or live music situation out there as it relates to COVID. And I've talked to a number of politicians, and they've all come back to me and said that there's this kind of understanding that if you have live music, that's going to immediately create an environment of people shouting, uncontrollable, moving around, singing to the music, and therefore it's a situation that is perfect for the spread of COVID. Now, while I wouldn't dispute the fact that that can happen under certain circumstances, and we don't want that, because in my mind, safety of my patrons, safety of my staff is absolutely first. We do not want to create a situation at all that can become much less a super spreader, even a one-person spreader. So we're very cognizant of that. But here's what we've tried to do. We've tried to put together situations where we could do drive-in concerts. We've tried to put in situations where we've secured outdoor, very large pieces of land where we could socially distance groups of people far greater than their socially distance under the circumstances where restaurants are able to open these days. And we've been shut, we've met a brick wall. We can't do it. So my frustration is that they've looked at the restaurant business and they've created phased processes for restaurants to reopen, mostly outdoors, and then in certain counties, certain circumstances, indoors at a very limited capacity. My contention is if they would do that for the live music business, as opposed to just treating it as one big situation, but say, okay, well, if you can open outdoors and you can socially distance even 20 feet apart rather than 6, whatever they come up with, I think, and look, I'm not an epidemiologist, I don't pretend to be an expert, but common sense seems to dictate that there are sets of circumstances where we could try to get some sort of live performances in a circumstance that's even safer than a lot of restaurants. Because quite frankly, when you go to a restaurant, you're there to eat. You have to take your mask off once you sit down, whether you're outdoors, whether you're indoors with a very few people. If you go to an outdoor situation where we've socially distanced people, the stage is far away, the performers are up on a stage far away, the people are far away from one another, a drive-in concert or a very big socially distant outdoor field. People are going to have their masks on while they're watching. If we serve food and drink, they would only be taking their masks off in their area to eat, and we don't even have to serve that. We could make it under a set of restrictions that is much safer than anything's out there. So, you know, I have been trying in dealing with health officials and always deferring to them, always. They're the experts, but I've been putting forth operations plans and the like to try to show that we think we could do this under safe circumstances, that we're very responsible people. We, you know, a lot of the people on this call are responsible for producing shows where there are 75,000 people. When you do that, you know how to manage crowds better than anybody out there. It doesn't get more experience than that. So we have people in our industry that can do this in a very responsible manner if the guidelines are set forth, and we would stick to them. So that's what we hope to accomplish. But right now, and certainly there are areas in the United States where some of this is allowed, by the way. I'm speaking for California. But we hope that they'll start to look at the live music industry a little bit or a lot more seriously, because the industry and through calls like this realize how big the industry is and how many people it affects. So it deserves the kind of analysis and maybe a set of circumstances where we can open under restrictions and the like. So I hope that answers your question, Casey.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ken. I do also want to recognize that Representative Thompson looks like he did have to leave. As you may know, House is back in session and they are in the middle of a vote. So thank you, Representative Thompson, for joining us, and we can definitely continue this conversation. Wanted to ask Joanne with IATSE Local 16, can you expand a little bit more on what you're hearing from your members and kind of some more information about some unemployment claims, any rental assistance, you know, mental health? What are you hearing from your members? Maybe expand on that a little bit.
Well, with regards to our members, I was given the unenviable task of writing letters to people's landlords explaining about the work shortage, because quite often landlords require a note. And it was probably, I've been with Local 16 35 years. And I've seen after 9/11 what happened, after the 2008 crash what happened, after the Loma Prieta earthquake what happened. Nothing compares to this. Regrettably, we have members that are leaving the state to go home to live with their families in other parts of the country. We have the stress level is inordinately high for our membership. As I said, over 98% of our members are flat out unemployed. And it's not like it's the easiest thing in the world to find another job, because all of our industries are shut down. People are in fear of losing their health care, which is frightening. They're worried about how to take care of their children because their children are at home. Where the IA has started a campaign about mental health and suicide awareness, because regrettably, that is an unfortunate byproduct of what's been going on. And we're just here, and I think this has been reiterated over and over again. No one is asking for a handout, and all of our members would jump at the chance to go back to work. But I sometimes feel like a cheerleader just trying to keep morale up. And frankly, I don't know. I'm very concerned about not only the financial well-being of our membership, but of the mental well-being of our membership. That is what's really very, very devastating.
Casey, I'd like to add something to that.
Yeah, please.
You know, there was a lot of talk when the unemployment bonus, or whatever you want to call it, the $600 ended, and a lot of talk on a certain side of the aisle that, you know, people would love to be paid to stay home. And I have to say that I have found that as far from the truth as possible. We are constantly getting calls, whether it be from our bartenders, our servers, my production people. When are you, and this was well prior to the $600 bonus ending, all just wanting to know when we can reopen and when they can come back to work. And I have to tell you, a lot of these people, when you do the math, probably were making considerably less than what they were making on unemployment, but they wanted to work. And I found that across the hospitality industry and across the live music and production industry. So, you know, I just want to make that point that, you know, that absolutely nobody's looking for a handout. People want not only to work now and to work in general, but they want to know that when we get through the other side and COVID is in the rearview mirror, that their jobs are there for them as well. So I think that's important to note.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ken. How about Don Was? Can you give us a little perspective on the recorded music side? How has Blue Note Records been particularly affected in this shutdown?
Well, sending musicians out on tour is our major way of marketing records. It's very similar to what happens in politics. You go out on a grassroots level and you build an audience. So for new artists, it's imperative that they go to 30, 40 cities, and then they keep coming back, and that when they're there, they spend time in that city and go to a radio station and speak to a local music magazine, but whatever it takes. And you have to keep repeating that over a period of years to get to a point where you build a solid audience. So it's been devastating for new and mid-level artists who are releasing music kind of into a void, and the sales reflect that. But it even impacts our biggest artists. Who we have one artist who had a 1.5 year long tour planned of large scale venues, and this was to promote a new album. She can't do it. And I think the music has really suffered. When the music suffers, there are all sorts of ramifications. Blue Note Records is part of the Capitol Music Group. It's about 1,500 employees, and we're part of the Universal Music Group, which is, you know, 5-6 times that. You know, everyone's fighting to keep the employees working and keep the staff, you know, on the job and together. And we're doing a really great job of running these companies from home. But eventually, it's all going to catch up with us. We need the live venues. You can't have a music business without the live venues.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Don. You know, so there are several national organizations, NITO, as well as NIVA, National Independent Venue Association. So, you know, for those looking to take action, we do encourage you to visit saveourstages.com and fill out the handy form there to tell your legislators to save independent music venues. It only takes a minute, and please tell Congress to act now. They're in session right now, so they're going to hear our voice. So I wanted to just kind of open floor. Does anyone have any closing final thoughts to contribute?
I wanted to say something along the lines of what Don was just mentioning. You know, this idea, so many of us got our start in this industry in whether it's in vans or station wagons, cruising around the country, playing 7 nights a week for $100 with a band. And we've built our crafts in those markets. And when I look back in time, if they didn't exist, anyone who works for me or in the industry parallel with me would not be here doing anything, because those venues are where we all cut our teeth. And they're a breeding ground for, you know, audio guys, video guys, technicians of all sorts. And it's so important that we focus on that level, because I think if you have, I mean, Don, your label's really unique because they're not putting out these mega giant records for artists who will recoup so much money on a record. They're putting out musicians who have to go, after they put the record out, then they have to go make money. And so they go on the road and then make the money through these small venues, and they work their way up the ropes. And I see, like, if you fast forward in 20 years from now and we haven't supported these smaller venues, and this could be from a bar, 50 people, up to the Fox Theater, they need to exist so that everyone gets time to vet music out of their systems, create incredible, you know, entertainment. And then along with it comes, as we've said, all the effects in society, all the economics attached to it. And then there's these you can't just jump to a stadium tour without having all those people who learned for 20 years how to navigate a stadium. So if we pull it out, it's almost like draining a lake and in 10 years saying, where are the fish? It's a done deal if we don't have these steps for people to build their careers in, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to add something that's been, I'd like to reiterate something and kind of drive this home and talk about, you know, the live music industry, how it is different than many of the other industries that are being affected by COVID right now. And that is, and Ken said this earlier, so we were the first businesses to close, and we will be the last ones to open. And we have $0 in revenue, or close to $0 in revenue coming in right now. I mean, it is very grim. And I get the sense in talking to people around the country that many businesses are kind of holding on right now, you know, by their fingertips, waiting to hear what's going to happen with this last coronavirus relief bill. And if something is not done here, I think we are going to see a wave of live music venues closing or going out of business, I should say. And so it is just imperative that one of these restart or save our stages, or both, are included in a bill, and hopefully there is a bill.
Thank you, Alan. Anyone else have anything to say?
Well, I guess you go first. I talk.
Well, I'm just going to say that these people that we're talking about, this industry, the people who populate this industry, the musicians, the writers, the crews, the staffs, the people who staff the buildings, all of these people that make this industry happen, a lot of them are going to have, you know, they can't just go hide under a rock until this all blows over. They're going to have to start getting to work architecting a way of making a living that may be a little more dependable if we can't provide relief for these people. And if they do that, we're not going to get all those folks back, even though they find fulfillment in what brought them to this industry. If they can't depend on it, they're going to think twice about coming back to this industry once the COVID scourge goes away. So it's a matter of, really a simple matter of, do we want a culture-rich society, or is that not important to us?
Yeah, agreed. And people, I think people are recognizing. I think people are sounding off about that. Like, I think, as we've all seen, is this behind the scenes thing. People are starting to come up, and I think we're gaining some traction on being recognized as an industry that people actually need. And it was oversight. It was incredible oversight. And even the first PP payroll protection plan that came out, the guidelines that were put on that to what we could do with the money isn't going to work for the next one. Because the next one, you can't go, here's more of the same. And then, you know, I'm told to spend money a certain way that you pay this department, but you can't pay your rent. And then your business is out of business by the time, you know, COVID's over, and all the employees that you're trying to protect no longer have a company to come back to. And that will apply to all businesses. Ken, you're same boat. It's like if we don't have this, and I'm not saying an unlimited, you know, hand us the money and we'll spend it how we want, but some of this, the restrictions that were put on that first plan have to be removed. It has to be, we have to take care of 1099 employees, people who contract employees. It can't just be payroll based. And this is what it really needs to be, sort of a universal thing, and the time needs to be expanded as we know, because we all want this to come back, and that's truly clear in my eyes. So.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. Thanks, Bobby. Excellent. So unless anyone has any other final thoughts, I think that may wrap it up. Thank you to the attending press and to our panel of speakers, Rep. Thompson, Bob, Don, Alan, Ken, Joanne, Derek. Thank you for joining. You know, partially to our detriment right now, so much of the work in this industry is behind the curtains. And so we are eternally grateful for you and your help in bringing awareness at this critical moment for the live events industry. And, you know, to that end, I also want to make sure to acknowledge those behind the curtains of this virtual press conference: Roger, Sarah, Jill, Sophia, Danny, Heather, Josh, David. Thank you for helping to put this together. We couldn't have done it without you. So that concludes this press conference. Please be sure to visit saveourstages.com. And thanks, everyone. We will send a recording of this around this afternoon. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Yes.